Who is Dr. Ben? This is a study compiled by RBG Blakademics, honoring the life and work of Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochannan, the preeminent Egyptologist, affectionately known to generations of students as Dr. Ben. It pairs his biography and his devotion to Nile Valley civilization with a portrait of the figure he held up as proof of African genius, Imhotep of ancient Kemet. Together, they tell one story, that the foundations of civilization, of science, of medicine, and architecture were laid in Africa.
Dr. Ben's central conviction was simple and radical. Egypt, he insisted, belongs to Africa, and it is the place to go to learn the fundamentals of living. When asked why he began leading educational tours to Egypt back in 1946, he answered that no one knew or cared about Egypt, and most people believed Egypt was not even in Africa. For more than 5 decades, he worked to correct that erasure, returning to the Nile Valley twice a year, unearthing evidence, and teaching the world that the cradle of civilization was African. Part 1. The Life of Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochannan, the scholar the world came to know simply as Dr. Ben. Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochannan was born on December 31, 1918, to a Puerto Rican mother and an Ethiopian father within the Falasha Hebrew community of Gondar, Ethiopia. His formal education began in Puerto Rico and continued across the diaspora, in the Virgin Islands and in Brazil, where he attended elementary and secondary school. This early life, scattered across the Caribbean, South America, and the Horn of Africa, shaped a scholar who would spend his career connecting the scattered children of Africa back to a single ancestral source. Dr. Ben's academic training was as broad as his origins. He earned a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering at the University of Puerto Rico and a master's degree in Architectural Engineering from the University of Havana, Cuba. He went on to receive doctoral degrees in cultural anthropology and Moorish history from the University of Havana and the University of Barcelona in Spain. This rare combination, an engineer's grasp of how monuments are built, joined to a historian's grasp of how peoples are made, prepared him uniquely to interpret the achievements of ancient Egypt. In 1939, shortly after earning his undergraduate degree, Dr. Ben's father sent him to Egypt to study firsthand the ancient history of African people. From 1941 onward, he traveled there at least twice a year, and in 1946, he began leading educational tours to the Nile. He served as an adjunct professor at Cornell University for over a decade, and he wrote and published more than 49 books and papers, among them Black Man of the Nile and His Family, and Africa, Mother of Major Western Religions. Part 2. Imhotep, the multi-genius of ancient Kemet, whom Dr. Ben held up as living proof of Africa's gift to the world. Of all the non-royal people of ancient Egypt, perhaps no one is better known than Imhotep, whose name means the one who comes in peace. Today, the world is more familiar with his name than with that of his king, Djoser. For a long time, scholars treated Imhotep as a mythological figure, until the late 19th century when he was finally established as a real historical person. He served as vizier and chief minister to Djoser, second king of Egypt's third dynasty, around 2630 BC, and may have lived under as many as 4 kings. Imhotep was born a commoner, perhaps in a suburb of Memphis, and rose through the ranks quickly through his genius, natural talents, and dedication. An inscription on one of Djoser's statues records his astonishing list of titles. He was the Chancellor of the King of Lower Egypt, the first one under the king, the administrator of the Great Mansion, a hereditary noble, the High Priest of Heliopolis, the Chief Sculptor, and the Chief Carpenter. As High Priest of Heliopolis, then recognized as the religious capital, he stood among the chief priests of all northern Egypt. As a builder, Imhotep is the first master architect we know by name. He designed and built Djoser's step pyramid complex at Saqqara, recognized as the first monumental stone structure in human history and one of the most brilliant architectural wonders of the ancient world. He may also have had a hand in Sekhemkhet's unfinished pyramid and possibly in the establishment of the Edfu temple. In an age before mortar and steel, Imhotep proved that stone could be raised to the heavens, setting the template for the great pyramids that followed. Imhotep is often recognized as the world's first physician. Sir William Osler called him the first figure of a doctor to stand out clearly from the mists of antiquity. He is believed to have authored the Edwin Smith Papyrus, which describes more than 90 anatomical terms and 48 injuries, and he may have founded a school of medicine at Memphis that remained famous for 2,000 years. He diagnosed and treated over 200 diseases, performed surgery and dentistry, drew medicines from plants, and understood the circulation of the blood. Beyond medicine and architecture, Imhotep was honored as a sage, a poet, an astrologer, and a patron of knowledge and scribes. James Henry Breasted wrote that in priestly wisdom, in magic, in wise proverbs, in medicine and architecture, Imhotep left a reputation so notable that his name was never forgotten. He became the patron spirit of all later scribes, who would pour out a libation of water from their writing kit in his honor before beginning their work, a small daily ritual of respect for the man they regarded as the source of learning itself. Part 3. How a mortal man of Kemet was lifted, century by century, into the rank of the gods. Imhotep is the great example of what scholars called the personality cult of Kemet, in which a learned sage could be deified after death and become an intercessor for the living, much like the saints of later Catholicism. About 100 years after his death, he was raised to a medical demigod, and around 525 BC, some 2,000 years after he lived, he was elevated to a full god, replacing Nefertum in the Great Triad at Memphis. In the Turin canon, he is called the son of Ptah, and he was linked with Thoth, god of wisdom and writing. Imhotep's worship spread far beyond Egypt. His main centers were at Karnak and Deir el-Bahari in Thebes, at Philae, and at Memphis near the Serapeum, where pilgrims brought mummified ibises and clay models of diseased limbs, hoping to be healed. The Greeks identified him with Asclepius, their own god of medicine. The Romans honored him, and the emperors Claudius and Tiberius had inscriptions praising him placed on temple walls. Early Christians even worshipped him as one with Christ, and he found a place in Arab tradition, especially at Saqqara, where his tomb is thought to lie. Together, the life of Dr. Ben and the legacy of Imhotep deliver one lesson. Long before Greece or Rome, an African people in the Nile Valley produced the first architect, the first physician, the first named genius of recorded history. Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochannan spent his life carrying that truth from the dust of Saqqara to classrooms around the world. To know who Dr. Ben was is to remember who Imhotep was, and to understand that the fundamentals of civilization were first written and first built in Africa.